Morning. Is using the test of Avraham Avinu with Ur Kasdin as an example of what happens when a person passes a test. So we said that according to Teva, according to the laws of nature, the way Hashem himself established these laws of nature in the world, fire burns and water extinguishes fire. That's the Teva. But that's from Shem Elokim. So it's Hashem doing it. Hashem shines his light through the name Elokim. And when Hashem shines his light through the name Elokim, he wants there should be the order and the laws of nature. But Shem Havaya, that's Hashem's light as it is infinite. In the infinite realm, there are no rules and there are no laws of nature. Fire doesn't have to burn. Or the example he gave that just like oil could burn in a wick, so too could vinegar burn in a wick. There are no rules, there are no laws. Hashem could do everything and anything he wants. So we left off by the line is almost right in the middle of the page. The first word on the line is chulu, chavav. And we're up to the last words on the line where it says hagam. And we keep saying that the laws of nature are from Shem Elokim, but Hashem, who's infinite, is above the laws of nature. There aren't the laws of nature. So now he's going to ask a question, and the question is, but isn't the creation of the world something which comes from the name Havaya? As we know that the word Havaya actually comes from the Hebrew word Mahava, which means to create. So the source of creation is Shem Havaya, and Shem Havaya is infinite. So if infinite means there are no laws of nature, how does that work? So this is where it starts with Hagam. Hagam means even though Havayu HaMahava, name Havaya, that's what creates, that's what creation comes from. The whole is Havos, or there's Gavos Koyach HaPel. Any form, any act of creation, that means the power that creates is revealed. In other words, if the creation of Shem Havaya means Havaya is revealed. And Havaya is infinite. So if Havaya is infinite, how can it be the laws of nature? Nevertheless, the light of Havaya shines through the name Elokim, which is Helam V'Hester, which is concealment. And that causes the light to come in a finite way. In other words, the source that creation comes from Shem Elokim is because in the Chumash, when you read the story of creation in Bereshis, we see that the name that's being used all the time is the name Elokim. Vayomer Elokim, Vayomer Elokim, the Vayomer Elokim, everything is Vayomer Elokim. In fact, it says that the name Elokim in Bereshis is found 32 times. And only at the end of the entire creation is the name Havaya even mentioned. On the other hand, we say Havaya is Mahava, that creation comes to the name Havaya. So which is it? Is creation from Shem Havaya or from Shem Elokim? So therefore, he explains, in essence, it's from Shem Havaya, but Shem Havaya shines its light in the world through the name Elokim. So the name Elokim is like a filter, which means that if the light would be shining brightly, purely in the way it is, then everything in this world would be unlimited. There wouldn't be any laws of nature. So this would be similar. Sometimes this mashal is given, like you have water in a cup, a glass, and the glass is red. So when you look at the water from the outside, what do you see? You see red water. And if the glass is green, you see green water. Today we can give other mishalim with our new world, that if you have light and there's a glass on top of the light, what kind of light do you have in the room? If the glass is green, the light in the room is green. And if the glass is red, all the light in the room is red. And if the glass is blue, all the light is blue. But the light itself is really not green, not red, not blue. It's the glass that's the color. And when this light, which is white, shines through a certain glass, it takes on that color on the outside. But in essence, it has no colors. So the name Havaya is infinite. It shines through Shem Elokim. And because it shines through Shem Elokim, it takes on the limitations of nature, so there should be a physical world. So basically, we can say both are true. We can say that the creation of the world is from Shem Elokim, because all the laws of nature come because of Shem Elokim. It's like saying the fact that there's red light, green light, blue light is because of the glass. On the other hand, what's the real source of the light? Is it the glass or the light? Of course, the glass is only a filter. The light itself is the source of the brightness in the room. But when that brightness is channeled through a colored glass, then it takes on a color. So Shem Havaya is the source of creation, Mahava, and at the same time, it's through Shem Elokim. So we go back to what we said before. All the laws of nature and all the limitations and all the things that restrict different things in the world, this can only do this can only do that, this can be only one way, and this can be only another way. That's because of Shem Elokim. Shem Havaya has no restrictions, no laws of nature at all. But that's not revealed in this world. So now, let's continue. Back to Avram Avinu. V'hinei. Okay, so in the line that starts with the word Sorev, second word on the line. Hinei Avraham lechoshav. Avraham didn't think. Sheisnag imei banhoga shelamayla mateva. He didn't think, and it's not what he was calculating, that he's going to go into the fire and things will be above nature. Nothing's going to happen to him. He thought things will happen the way they happen according to the order of nature. That fire will burn. But what was happening? There was a king, Nimrod, who wanted to force him to deny Hashem and worship Avodah Zarah. And if he doesn't do that, he's going to throw him into a fire. So therefore, he stood strong, and no matter what, even if it means to throw him into the fire, he's ready, and he will not bend and not compromise on his belief in Hashem. So even though he believed, from his perspective, he thought this is what's going to happen. They're going to throw him in the fire, and that'll be the end of his life. He stood to the test, not to separate himself from godliness. Although, even though he had such tremendous hardships, such tremendous things standing in his way and blocking him and trying to stop him, like Nimrod the king and all those that were going along with him, they wanted to burn him because he went against their beliefs. What he was experiencing was all the concealments that comes from the way the world runs in the natural order. So therefore, his life was in danger, and his life was sort of hanging, and he could have been killed. He didn't move meaning didn't compromise on his beliefs, not even one iota. And he stood strong against everything that was blocking, against everything that was concealing. Like it looked like, if Hashem is truth and Hashem is in charge, why is this happening to me? So this was a concealment. Nevertheless, all these questions and all the circumstances didn't in any way weaken him. He was ready to be burned to death in this fire. but not separate himself from Hashem. What happened? He had a miracle. So I'll soon do the words inside, but let me just explain. So what is he saying? What he's saying is like this. Just like we gave the example of the mushal, that there's a teacher that has a very deep concept, and he wants to communicate the deep abstract concept to the student, but he can't. The student won't grasp it. So he takes that deep concept and he presents it through a mushal, which means it's channeled through the mushal. The mushal is something which conceals the depth of the concept. It makes it look very simple, like a little story. And by listening to the story and hearing the story, he gets the idea, but without the depth. The depth is in it, but he doesn't get it. And then he starts looking into it and analyzing it and studying it. And eventually he starts extracting from the story all the depth that's hidden in the story. So this deep abstract concept, which was impossible to be grasped before, now that it went through this process of first being hidden, later it can come out in a revealed way. Same thing with Hashem. Hashem wants to have the infinite light shine in this world. So what does he do? He covers it up, he hides it. How does he hide it? By doing things in this world which conceal godliness, which is a Nisayan. And then by me standing up to the Nisayan, that means when I stand up to the Nisayan, I'm revealing that in essence, this is only a test. And really, this is something that's concealing the infinite light of Hashem. And by me being strong, I reveal that infinite light that's in this test. When the infinite light is revealed, the laws of nature fall to the sides and the fire didn't burn. That's what happened by Avraham Avinu. Say it again. Once upon a time. Okay, so we're using the mushal as an example. I think the mushal part everybody understood when we learned about it, right? So what do we have? We have something which is blocking. And we say that the purpose of it blocking is that there's something much greater, much deeper, that's meant to be communicated, meant to be transmitted, but it can't be transmitted as it is because it's too powerful. So first it's transmitted through something which blocks it and hides it. And then by me working on it and recognizing that this is something hiding something very deep, eventually I can find the depth in the mushal and I get to understand the real depth of the concept. So think of it the same way. There's a light of Hashem that's infinite. And here too, Hashem wants to shine his infinite light in this world to finite people in a finite world. Not possible. A finite world would not contain an infinite light. What does Hashem do? The same thing. He hides the infinite light. First it's hidden, and we get it in a hidden way. And then eventually, slowly and gradually, we can reveal that infinite light that's hidden in this concealment. What's the concealment? In the other case, it's the mushal. In the case of creation, what's the concealment? A nisayon. When something happens which blocks Hashem's light, which denies Hashem's light, which looks like it's opposing aggressively Hashem's light, that's a concealment. And by me not allowing myself to be affected by it, and I realize this is not real. Really, Hashem wants to give me something. Like imagine, let me stop for a moment. Imagine when you tell someone a story and they have no clue that there's more depth there. That's it. They walk away with a cute little story. And that's it. They don't have more to it. And they'll never get anywhere because as far as they're concerned, there's nothing here more than a story, which means they are looking at the concealment as if this is real. There's nothing that it's hiding. This is what it's all about. So they'll never get to the depth. When they realize, no, this is a teacher that's really communicating something very deep to me, let me better look into the mushal and find what's hidden in this mushal. And then I dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and eventually I'll get all the depth. Same here. Something happens in life, which is a concealment. and says to me, it's impossible for you to keep Shabbos, impossible for you to believe Hashem. They're threatening you. If you do that, they'll be thrown into the fire. And they don't realize there's something deeper going on. So they say, okay, I give up. I surrender. But Avraham Avinu realized that this is really something else. Hashem wants to reveal his infinite light in the world. How does he reveal it? By concealing the light. Once it's concealed, and then I stand up to it, and I, in a sense, I act in a way where I'm revealing that this is just a concealment for a higher light, that reveals that higher light. Once the higher light is revealed, and that light is infinite, it's Shem Havaya, so infinite light is not limited by the laws of nature. And as a result of that, the fire didn't burn him. Second. Just 1 second. Did we get on the train? Okay, at least we're on the train. Yes, Bob.
I think you had 10 tests, and is this the first test? And if there were previous tests, like it says you don't rely on a miracle, so he knew not to rely on a miracle. How did he know that? So he what? Like you can ask him.
What's the question?
How did he know not to rely on a miracle? Because he had miracles. He was somebody who had miracles happening. And we know from the Talmud that don't rely on a miracle. So I guess he knew it from the Ruah.
Probably, like everything else. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm confused because there's like the Mimer is saying, and whatever, that the light, the infinite light of Hashem can't be like this world can't handle it. But how is it once we like reveal that light after it's been concealed that the world can handle it?
Yeah, you're asking what changes later.
Yeah.
If it can't be handled, then how could it be received?
Because it seems like then it could, like we don't have to go through this. Like,
Then what do we need a test for? So that's why we're using this mushal. Like if this student could really get all the depth, why couldn't the teacher give the depth in the first place? So the answer is by giving the deep concepts through a mushal in a simple way, it sort of opens up slowly and gradually the faculties, the brain of the student, that he can understand more depth, and he gets there eventually. If it would be given to him purely the way it is, he wouldn't be able to handle it. But because it's being given in a gradual process, therefore, he's able to slowly but surely understand the external part of the concept, then a little bit deeper. There are many layers of depth to the concept. If it's a process of 40 years, we can imagine how many layers of depth. And eventually, because it went through a gradual process, he's able to reach to the depth. So same thing here with the world. Hashem created the world in such a way that ultimately Hashem wants the world to have that infinite light. But how could the infinite light come and be contained and retained, and the world will remain a physical world the way it is, if it happens in this gradual process? First, it's hidden, and then by us passing the test, slowly and basically it's a accumulation of all Yidden, everybody's Avodah, everybody in their little world. We're revealing that infinite light because it came through a hidden process first. Let's see the words inside. Bahainu, the line that begins with Uklau. Bahainu, Shaydei, Zeshamad bin Nisayan, by Avraham Avinu standing up to the test, Heisir es levushi hateva. He removed the garments of nature, these curtains which conceal godliness. Halbashes, V'hasteirim, all these garments that come from Shem Elokim, and they cover up on the name Havaya, that it shouldn't be revealed. But by him standing at the test, he's sort of making a statement and saying, this is only a test, nothing's going to stop me. And therefore, he is revealing that in essence, there's a hidden light of Hashem in what's going on. As a result of that, this infinite light of Hashem shine openly, and because the light is infinite, fire doesn't burn, because it's above nature. Like we said before, the fact that fire burns, that's something which was established by Hashem as one of the rules of Teva, of nature. But from Ur Ein Sof, from his perspective, which is infinite, there are no rules. Fire doesn't have to burn. In other words, Hashem is the one that pasted this nature to fire, and he pasted that nature to water, and he pasted a different nature to air, and a different nature to earth. But in essence, it doesn't have to be the way it is. It's only because Hashem chose to make it that way. So basically, once you reveal the light of Hashem as it is in essence, then the laws of nature don't apply. How did it happen? How does this infinite light become to be revealed? So it's because he stood up to the test. If not for the test, even though Shemavaya is in the world, but Shemavaya is channeled through the name Elokim, and as a result of that, everything follows the order of nature. So it's like the glass, which is red, that even though the light shines through the glass, but it shines and it takes on a color, it takes on some sort of limitation. So the name Havaya, as it shines through the name Elokim, takes on limitations. So in order for the Shem Havaya to be revealed as is, which is infinite, as it is higher than the name Elokim, not limited, not restricted, not changed by Shem Elokim, this is through a test. By standing up to a test, when he stands up to the test, he comes to reveal. Let's turn the page, which is above nature. I'm going to skip a few lines and go to the part where he says, so how can we apply this practically speaking in our lives? And that is the line that's a few lines down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines down. The first word on line is bo. After explaining everything about Avraham Avinu, now he says like this, so the same thing, the fiyarech, relatively speaking, b'chol nisayin v'nisayin, adam aymed neged levusha, to have every test in our personal life, every one of us, when we stand up to a test, which is something's happening, that the garments of nature and the way the world operates naturally appears to be halamas v'asterim, concealments, shemoinim u'ma'akrim, they block me and they stop me from learning Torah and davening. But he stands up against it, against all the things that are blocking, and doesn't allow himself and he does what has to be done. Yasek b'Torah, he's going to study Torah. V'avoda, he will do avoda. Kol echad v'echad l'fiyarkei, work on self-refinement. Daven. By doing that, he will also reveal to a certain extent, not on the same scale like Avraham Avinu, he will reveal the light of Hashem that's above nature. I remember a story with a student that we had. We used to have classes there on Sundays. So these were students that came once a week. And they were just, it was a little bit like Chabad house. They were exposed to Yiddishkeit, but they weren't really fully into it. And this is a woman who came here for quite a while, maybe a year. And then she said to me that, I'm ready to stop working on Shabbos, which for her it was wow. But what am I going to tell them? You know what her job was? She was working in a printing place. Well, the world has changed since then with computers, but in those days it was a bit different. And in the printing place, she said that most of the work, the hardest day of the week is Friday. Why? Because everybody leaves everything to the last minute. And they come in at the end of the week. I need it tomorrow. I need it yesterday. So they're up Friday night very late, typesetting everything, preparing everything for printing. In fact, she showed me a calendar. It's called the printer's calendar. On the printer's calendar, Friday is on Tuesday. In other words, they want people to come on Tuesday instead of Friday. So it's a very busy time. And she's going to tell her boss that she can't come in on Friday night. That's it. And she's going to lose her job. Oh, we spoke about it. And the way it goes, if he says this, you'll say this. If he says that, you'll say this. You'll explain this. You'll explain yourself. Shabbos. Okay. Can I meet her next week on Sunday? So what happened? I didn't have the guts to do it. No, not ready. Okay. A few months go by. Rabbi, now I'm ready. And she tells me again, so what if he says this? I said, you can answer him this. And how do you know that? You can show him over here. You can show this, says in the Torah, this, 10 Commandments. We're talking about what the dialogue would look like. Okay. She comes back the next week. Oh, you're going to be disappointed with me. I just couldn't do it. Okay, no problem. Keep trying. A few more months go by. I said, okay, now I'm ready. No matter what, even if I lose my job, I'm going to do it. Comes back next week.
When was this?
In the 1900s, like, you know. It's probably 1982, 83. She comes back and she says, big smile on her face. So what happened? I said, I said, I can't come in anymore on Friday nights. So he said to me, so which other night could you come in? And she's like, I said, what's the matter? Everything okay? Like the world, she had all this pent up speeches in her head, what she's going to say. Now she's going to answer what he's going to say that, it came out, there's nothing to talk about. It's okay, which other night? I think what happened there was exactly what it says in the minor. Once she said, that's it, no matter what, even if I lose my job, I'm going to go ahead with this. Once she was strong and she was determined that she's not going to bend, so all of a sudden she saw this little miracle in her personal life, which she couldn't imagine. He didn't give her a hard time, didn't give her an argument. They just asked, okay, which other night could you come in?
Wow, she might felt so bad for all those months that she didn't do it before.
Let's not focus on that.
You know where I'm from.
Shalom Aleichem. She felt so good that she finally did it. Okay. So now he goes into explain how this affects us in our personal lives. That this is why the neshama came down in a gashmizical world that's limited by the laws of nature. V'nira, and it appears, v'nidmalei, apichitzenis hahagasaylim, it appears to him, to this person, every person, the way the world runs naturally, shetzarech lisnag kach v'kach dafki, you must do things a certain way, and if you don't do it that way, you won't succeed. For example, like a person who's involved in business. It appears to him that if you want to succeed in business, you have to get up early in the morning, you have to work tremendous amount of hours during the day, be up late at night, and be totally invested in your business. If we'll take off an hour from this time to daven or to learn Torah, I'm going to lose out. I'm going to lose money. I won't be able to build my business. I won't be able to grow my business. Or for another example, nidmala, it appears to a person, if you really want to make it in the business world, you can't be so straight. You got to do a little bit more twisting and turning and not so straight and scheming. The you can't go with emes. If you go with emes, you never make it in the business world. That's what they'll tell you. not only you won't make profit, you're going to lose your money. Why? The way the world runs looks like it's the opposite. That if you act in a way with emes and honesty in the business world and you do everything straight, you're not going to make it. If you're not going to invest yourself totally, you're going to spend time davening and learning, you'll never make it. You have to give it all you got. But it's really not true. The emes, la amite, in reality, it's not true. The etzem hanhagas ha'olam etzad atzmai, the way the world runs, in essence, not the way it appears to me, the way I perceive it, but the way it is in absolute truth from Torah, learning Torah and davening is not a contradiction to succeeding in parnasa. To do things in a truthful way, in an honest way. Canal, the call, halboshes, halames, einam malimim mastirim be'emes. Just as we said before, all these things which appear to conceal godliness, they look that way, it feels that way, but it's not real, it's not emes. Kim tachlis hakavana, the reason why Hashem made it feel that way and look that way is that I should stand up against it and I should overcome it. He should be neged kol minei akim. Like a person thinks, if I'm going to daven and say every word clearly and actually think while I'm davening, now very often people, when they daven, that's a wonderful time, perfect time to figure out my business because I have so much time of thinking. They tell this joke that a guy was davening Shmon Esrei, and after he finished Shmon Esrei, he said, "Oisa Shalom." So the Rav walks over to him and says, "Shalom Aleichem, welcome." He says, "What kind of welcome? I've been here the whole time. I know you were on a long trip right now. You were somewhere, who knows where, and you just came back because the mind wanders. And in fact, something about my job just came to my head, and you start thinking, how am I going to manage? I can't concentrate on the davening, but it's not true. On the contrary, if I would concentrate on the davening and not on that, I'd be more successful, whatever that issue is." They tell the story that there was a chassid who had a court case. And it was a pretty serious case. So he came to his Rebbe for a bracha and also for advice. And he said, what if the judge says this and this? What should I say? Answer him such and such. And what if he says this and this? So you say that. And he keeps going. Finally, the Rav says, listen, the judge is not Jewish. He doesn't daven Shmon Esrei. He doesn't have time to think about all these dialogues. Just say what I told you and you'll do fine. So Shmon Esrei, the davening, like I said, people find that in the middle of davening, they end up saying other parts of davening, they have no idea how they got there. And they realize that the mouth was talking, the head was someplace else. And because the words in davening are similar, so middle of davening, you end up by benching, middle of benching, you end up by davening. What does that mean? It means the feeling is that if I don't take care of this right now, I have to go to work in a half hour, I have to think about it now, so therefore I can't concentrate on davening. So it's not really true. A person could set aside time for davening, could be totally invested in the davening, and Yasig, the Torah, can set aside time for learning every single day. Midvar Sheka Yirchak, he can distance himself from lying, because that's what the Torah says. Yizar Metachbulas, he'll be very careful and cautious from all sorts of scheming and twisted ways. Kim Yelich B'Toimo B'Emes. Like I remember the Rebbe once spoke about this subject, and it says something is going wrong in his head. He thinks that Hashem cannot give him parnasa unless he does things in a twisted way. In other words, if I believe that parnasa comes from me, then I think I have to do this, and I have to twist, and I have to be dishonest if I want to get somewhere. But if I realize that it comes from Hashem, so what am I thinking? That if I'm going to be honest, Hashem won't want to give me parnasa, or he can't give me parnasa. So all these things means it feels that way, it's perceived that way, it's made to look that way. That's the definition of a nisayon. But in essence, it's not true. When he stands up to the test and all these things, even on a personal level, the person will benefit and experience a light of Hashem that's above nature. Who experiences lights that's above nature? So he says, I'll be pasha to. How could you explain that in a simple way? So he says, first of all, this in itself, when a person sees that he's acting al-pi Torah mitzvahs. He's doing things according to the guidance of Torah and mitzvahs. And he studies Torah, and he's spending time davening, different than what people think you have to do. And he sees that this is this is not consistent with the way the business world necessarily runs. You know, our Bochum go out every Friday, they do Mivtzoyim, and a lot of interesting stories in Mivtzoyim. But sometimes they come across a person, I heard this from someone, they walked into an office, I think it was a lawyer's office, and he says, would you like to put on film today? And he pulls a yarmulke out of his pocket, and he says, Tefillin, I'm a religious Jew. Not only a religious Jew, I give the Daf Yomi shir in Gemara in my shul. Wow. And you ask me to put on tefillin. So why is the yarmulke not on his head? You think because it's too heavy? No, it's not heavy. He thinks that if he has a yarmulke on his head, it might alienate certain clients and they won't want to work with him. Or it might not impress the judge in the courtroom and he might not be happy. This is the definition of a test. No, you'll wear the yarmulke, you'll do what you're supposed to do according to Torah. And when a person does things according to Torah, you will see the bracha. That itself is, in a sense, a manifestation of the infinite light of Hashem. That things are not the way it seems to be according to the laws of nature, but it's the way it's according to Torah. Not always do we see this so openly, that's true. Sometimes that's part of the test, that I do everything I'm supposed to, and I still don't see that bracha. So just a little bit of longer test, a bigger test. But ultimately, if a person doesn't sort of bend and a person doesn't lose themselves under these circumstances, so that in itself, that he sees doing things the way I did according to Torah, and I didn't lose out. Actually, I know someone, I know this person personally, he's no longer here, but he used to drive a taxi. And he said for 10 years, there was somebody that was talking to him about keeping Shabbos and not to drive on Shabbos. And he couldn't say Shabbos was my best day. This was going on for 10 years. Finally, after 10 years, he decided he's going to do the taxi on Sunday instead. And he said, maybe this is where you can say what you said before. He said, I couldn't believe it. I made $200 more on Sunday than I used to make on Saturday. I could have stopped driving the taxi years ago. But basically, it's either yes or no. But what he saw was that by doing what the Torah says, not only didn't lose, on the contrary, he made even more profit than it would have been the other way around.
It's not always like that.
Not always like that. That means that itself is part of the test. When someone says, okay, but for me, it's not working that way. And what happens as a result? So I guess it's not so consistent that if you do what Hashem says, it works for you. So right away, I'm failing the test. By saying that, or by thinking that, I'm sort of surrendering to this test. I'm allowing it to affect me. But if a person continues to be persistent and say, I know that this is the right thing to do, and if I do the right thing, ultimately it'll work out for my benefit, then the person will ultimately see the bracha. Now the truth is, not always is the bracha for me what I think it is. That's also a possibility. There's a story with the Rebbe Maharash, that there was a chassid who had a brother. This chassid was wealthy. His brother was poor. And every once in a while, when his brother had some sort of situation, he would call him and ask him to help him out, whether it was paying a mortgage on his house or whether it was about marrying off a child. He had no money. When certain bigger expenses came up, he couldn't handle it. He would always help him out. He was very kind and very giving. And then one day he said to himself, instead of him always coming to me and begging me for money, let me, once and for all, give him a lot of money, help him establish his own business, and he'll be independent. Financially, he won't need me. So he came to the Rebbe Maharash, and he told him, Maharash, what he wants to do. And the Rebbe Maharash said, no, not a good idea. He couldn't understand why not. In fact, you know, and you remember what we learned about the 8 levels of tzedakah, that's the highest level, where you give a person money that they can be independently, financially independent, and they don't need any more tzedakah. seemed like the best thing, but the Rebbe told him no. I think he asked a few times, he always told him no. He really wanted to do this. So one time, there was another Hasidic Rebbe that passed by his town, and he said to that Hasidic Rebbe, told him the same story, and he asked him, what do you think? And he said, I think it's a very good idea. And the Chassid couldn't stand by this little test. And he actually did it. He gave his brother a lot of money, very generous. The brother invested the money in a business. He guided him, and he actually built a beautiful big business. And he had a lot of money. A few years into this new endeavor, he went on a business trip. And the wagon driver realized that this man is a wealthy man, and he's going back home with a lot of money. And unfortunately, on the way, he murdered him and took away all the money. And he realized later that the Rebbe saw that he could succeed and he'll make a lot of money. But he also saw that this could lead to this negative end, God forbid. So therefore, he advised them not to give him this money to become this wealthy person who's going to be traveling on a business trip. So I'm saying not always when something happens do we know that this is really not good for me. Sometimes what appears to be one way in actuality is a bracha. That's another thing to have in mind. Okay, we will stop here.
Well, interesting, he kept on asking his Rebbe, but then he went to someone else, a little bit like.
Right, that's not the way things are done.
Robert?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If God created vessels and us.
What?
If God created vessels and us. And if the light is so big, we can't interfere. So why did God create a bigger vessel for us?
Bring it up tomorrow.